the veiled curse in the vast black stretch of Sector Aurelianine. The stars flickered like silent witnesses to ancient secrets. Orbiting a blue star was the planet Valerian Prime, home of the Valeri Empire, empire older than human flight, rich in mystery, and ruled by a single untouchable law. No one may gaze upon the face of a royal-born Valari princess until the soul bond is chosen, and the price of disobedience, madness, or death. No outsider had ever dared attempt the bond. Over 100 species had declined. Generations passed, and still the royal line remained unjoined. The curse was said to be divine-spawned during the Shadow Wars, when a Valari princess was betrayed by a suitor who desired her beauty, not her heart. Since then, every princess's face was sealed behind a sacred veil of woven biocrystal, pulsing gently with life, a veil that killed any who sought it unearned. Princess Solara had waited 30 years behind that veil. She had never seen her own reflection. Her only companions were books, old music from lost worlds, and the silence of a palace too large for one soul. Her people worshipped her as a symbol, but never as a person. On the day of the choosing ceremony, the palace's twin towers lit up in purple phlegma, signal to all the galaxy. The princess was ready. Again, warriors, nobles, diplomats, scholars from distant stars all came, pretending bravery. But, as tradition dictated, they were required to pass the first trial before being granted audience. None passed. Some didn't even try. Some ran the moment they saw the veil, and so the hall remained silent, filled with alien perfume, ceremonial guards in golden armor, and one princess sitting alone on a throne she could barely feel beneath her. Her heart, though unseen, beat heavy with disappointment, until the chamber doors hissed open one last time. Heavy boots echoed against polished obsidian. A human male stepped in lean dusty, no royal suit or medals, just a weather-beaten jacket, thick black boots, and an old military patch on the shoulder. Commander Elias Cross. The guards tensed, but the princess leaned forward. She had never seen a human this close, not in person. Elias walked slowly to the circle marked in white before her throne, ignoring the silent glares. He bowed, not the stiff bow of diplomacy, but a half nod of respect. "State your name and species," called the High Custodian, Elias Cross. "Humans, Earth Sector," he replied. "You understand the rules. You will not see the princess's face. You may not touch her. You may not speak to her directly unless permitted. Do you still wish to petition for bond?" Elias didn't hesitate. "Yes," gasps followed. One alien delegate from the Grent species fainted. Even the custodian flinched. "Even knowing the curse, I've read the history. I've seen the footage." Elias looked directly at the custodian, his voice calm but unshakable. "The curse kills cowards. I'm not one." Princess Solara's eyes widened behind the veil. No one had ever said that before. "You wish to bond," the custodian said, coldly, without even knowing what lies behind the veil. Elias crossed his arms. "I've fought wars in mud and vacuum. I've lost people I loved without ever seeing their final breath. Faces fade. Truth stays." He paused, then added, "I don't care what she looks like. That's not why I'm here." The silence in the room became thick. Even the walls seemed to hum with discomfort. Zalara's throat tightened. This human, this stubborn, tired soldier, had just said what no one dared say in all her life, that her soul mattered more than the face she'd never shown. The custodian scoffed. "You will be granted the trials. Do not expect to survive. Many stronger than you have failed." "I'm not them," Elias replied. He turned his eyes slowly, respectfully toward the princess, though he couldn't see her face behind the glowing veil. He didn't try to. Instead, he simply said, loud enough for her to hear, "I came for you, not your face. Let them throw whatever tests they want." Then he gave a half smile. "I didn't come to see, I came to stay." Zalara, behind the veil, felt her heartbeat skip. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever meant it. And as the ceremonial drums echoed to announce the first trial, her lips moved for the first time in years. Silently, she whispered, "Let him try." Trials of the heart. The trial chamber was buried beneath the palace floor, a living structure of black stone that pulsed like a sleeping creature. Walls shimmered with alien glyphs, and the temperature dropped the deeper. Elias walked to guards, led him in silence, their faces unreadable behind silver masks above them. Princess Solara watched through a projection, feet her fingers curled against the armrest of her seat. Elias was alone now, and what came next had broken minds stronger than his, or so the council claimed. The voice of the High Custodian rang through the chamber, echoing across the stone walls like a judgment cast in thunder. Welcome to the trial of memory. Your mind will be opened. You will walk through the echoes of yourself. Only those with true hearts. Servilius didn't flinch. He stepped into the circle without hesitation. The glyphs on the walls flared white, then red, then disappeared altogether. And then the world around him changed. He was no longer in a chamber. He stood in a battlefield, ash. In the air, the ground broken by fire and blood. Explosions in the distance, screams in the wind. Elias looked down, his hands trembled. His uniform was torn, and in front of him lay his squad, all fallen, their faces blurred, their voices distant. You left us, Elias. You survived while we died. Why? He took a deep breath, his voice cracked but firm. Because I was ordered to pull back. I didn't want to. He stepped forward through the illusion, each step heavier than the last. Every face he passed reached out, grabbing at his soul, and yet he didn't stop. The room shifted again. Now he stood before a child, a girl with wide eyes and tear-streaked cheeks. She held a broken toy. Her village burned behind her. Her voice was a whisper. Why didn't you save? Elias knelt. Because I wasn't enough, but I never stopped trying, and I haven't since. Bright light surrounded him, and the battlefield dissolved. He stood once more in the trial chamber, breathing hard, his forehead slick with sweat. The custodian's voice came again. First trial complete. Elias' whispers erupted across the council room. No human had ever passed the trial of memory. Not one in her chamber. Zalara exhaled. Her fingers had clenched the seat. Without realizing, her mind repeated his words. I wasn't enough, but I never stopped trying. She found herself wanting to speak to him again, not from behind protocol, not through silent observation, but directly. The second trial was announced. 1 hour later, Elias stood before a sealed gate, etched with spirals that shifted and blinked. A beast waited beyond, one crafted by Valari science, a creature made not to kill but to reveal it. Mimics fear, the custodian explained. It shows you what you fear most and feeds from your reaction. Do nothing, and it tears your mind apart. Feel and survive if you can. The gates opened. Elias stepped inside. There was silence for a moment. Then something emerged from the shadows. It wasn't large, it wasn't snarling, but it was familiar. It had his face, a perfect mirror matching every blink, every breath. It spoke. You're not special, Elias, you're broken. You think your words mean something, but she'll reject you like the others. You'll never be enough. Elias didn't move. The mirror. Elias stepped closer. She lifted the veil and screamed. You'll see yourself in her eyes and hate what looks back. You don't belong here. You're just another human who thinks being bold is the same as being worthy. Elias blinked slowly, his jaw tight, and said, maybe I'm broken, maybe I don't belong, but I'm still here, and I'll keep standing even if I shatter for it. The creature lunged. Elias didn't flinch. He looked into its eyes and felt no fear, only the beast shrieked, then exploded into the chamber. Zalara had pressed a hand to her chest, her breathing shaky. This human was not like the others. He faced what made him weak, and did not run. The custodian hesitated, then spoke. Trial to complete. Elias emerged from the chamber, drained but upright. He looked at the observers, but spoke to none. Then for the first time his wrist communicator buzzed. He looked down. A voice crackled through the static, soft, clear, and impossible to mistake. It was her, the princess. I am watching you. Elias, you are not what I expected. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. He just whispered. Neither are youth face. They feared. The palace sky dimmed with the weight of dusk. Valerio's twin moons began their ascent, casting long shadows across the garden, domes and crystal towers. Inside the veiled observatory, Princess Zalara stood alone before the starlight mirror, watching not her reflection but his. Elias Cross, the human who did not beg to see her, who did not tremble before curses or ceremony, was sleeping in the guest chambers below, his vitals displayed steady, his breath calm, but his mind restless. Kalara traced her fingers along the edge of her veil, not to lift it, but to feel its edges, like a cage woven of silk and history for generations. Her face had been called a weapon, her beauty sealed, her life locked behind fear. No one asked how she felt about it. Twin. She was 7. She once reached for her reflection in a pool of still water. Her caretakers had screamed, dragged her away, burned the water basin. When she was 12, an off-world suitor demanded a glimpse of her. Before the first trial he had touched the edge of her veil, and hours later he died, clawing at his own eyes, muttering about light and pain. They called it the curse of the veil, but Zalara had always wondered, was it truly a curse, or was it a warning for the wrong kind of gazin'? The silent dark below. Elias woke to a sound, a whisper crackling from his. Come meet me in the Hall of Echoes. Now he rose without hesitation, boots silent on alien stone. The guards were absent, which was strange. He moved past murals depictions of ancient Valari monarchs, all faceless, all watching. The Hall of Echoes was quiet, columns tall as sky walls glowing faintly blue, and then she appeared, veiled robes flowing, light footsteps touching down like snowflakes. She stood before him, closer than ever. Princess Solara, voice calm, masking something deeper. You were not summoned for the third trial yet. Why are you here? Elias tilted his head, smiling faintly. You called Mesh, hesitated. That was not protocol. Then maybe your soul overruled the rules. Pause hung between them, a silence deeper. Then Spacey did not reach for her, did not step forward. He simply stood, a man with no crown, no armor, no agenda. You passed the trials, Zalara said, but do you understand what it means to bond with May? No, it means not claiming, not owning, not proving anything. It means choosing freely, knowing the risks, and you would choose, without sight, without certainty. Ias nodded once. She took one step forward. Do you fear what is behind the veil? He looked into the place where her eyes would be. Not at all, because fear grows in those who expect, and I don't expect. I trust that. Word struck her like wind against stained glass. She had never been trusted for who she was, only what she might represent, or what danger she might carry behind her. A hidden door slid open with a silent hum. Figures emerged from shadow, 3 robed members of the High Council, and with them, a 4th figure, masked but smaller. Elias narrowed his eyes. This was not a coincidence. The lead counselor stepped forward. Elias crossed. By choosing to bond without seeing, you violate the sacred balance of intention and perception. Your decision forces the ancient choice. You must now face the mirror of judgment. Solara stepped between them. That trial was buried ages ago for good reason. The counselor raised a hand. For humans, it must be revived. Elias nodded, his voice calm. Then show me the mirror. Minutes later, he stood in a chamber of black glass walls, smooth and hollow. No light, no shadow, only the object at the center. The mirror of judgment. It pulsed with a heartbeat, not its own, not mechanical, not natural, but something in between. Zalara stood beside the council, silent, watching her veil fluttering like mist in slow windy lies. Approached the mirror, began to shift, not in shape but in depth. His reflection twisted, his eyes turned hollow, his skin pale, his form cracked like shattered marble. Then the mirror spoke, not in words but in memories, his worst thoughts, his most bitter guilt, his secret fear. You are nothing, a broken man trying to rewrite his worth with romance. You're not here for her, you're here to Elias did not argue. He knelt before the mirror, touched the surface with bare fingers, and whispered, then, let me matter, not for myself but for her. The mirror pulsed once, twice, and went still. Chamber lights returned. The council was sealed. Solar looked at him, and something inside her shifted. She stepped forward, past the council, past the rules, and extended her hand. Not a gesture of royalty but one of choices. The first touch between them, an unstoppably love. Without sight, the palace walls held their breath, as if the ancient stones knew that something forbidden had just occurred. Princess Solara's hand rested in Elias's palm, warm, steady, unshaken by centuries of rules. No alarms triggered, no guards stormed the chamber, no hidden blades struck from the shadows. Only silence, and the small sound of 2 different heartbeats finding rhythm. The High Council watched, motionless, their power, their control held together by nothing more than tradition. And now that tradition was cracking. The veil had not lifted, but a boundary had been broken. Ias looked at Zalara's veiled face, not with hunger, not with hesitation, but with peace. He didn't search for beauty, he didn't measure her features through guesses or rumors. He simply listened. You're trembling, he said softly. Zalara exhaled. I am not afraid, I am something else. And I do not know the name of it. Hope, maybe, Elias replied, or freedom. She smiled beneath the veil, a real smile, not the practiced one used for ceremonies, but the kind born from collision, the kind that couldn't be rehearsed. The council's eldest voice broke the silence. You dare claim a bond with a royal without full knowledge, without vision, without— The veil lifted. This is treason of the soul. Elias didn't flinch. Then let it be, because I'm not here to win a crown. I'm here to answer a voice that called me, and I'm not walking away. The chamber pulsed with tension, yet no one moved. Stepped forward, her voice calmed. You speak of vision, but you've never seen me. You speak of soul, but you've never known mine. She turned to Elias. Her fingers touched the edge of her veil, not to lift it, but to test herself. Do you still not want to see, even now, even when it is within reach? Elias met her gaze, even if he couldn't see her eyes. I want what you choose, not what I desire, not what the council demands, not what tradition expects. That is love, Zalara thought, though she didn't say it, not yet. She stepped back, looked at the council, and spoke without permission. I claim my ancient right, the right of self-selection, no matter the outcome, no matter the cost. The council exploded in protest. That right has not been invoked in 800 cycles. It was dissolved, buried, forgotten. Solara's voice rose like a blade drawn in silence. Then remember it, Elias. You must now answer one question. Do you vow to bond with me, even if my face burns away the image you dreamed, even if what you see unravels your mind, even if what you find is something entirely unknown? Elias didn't blink. Yes, because I already see more clearly than any who begged before. Mesh raised her hands and slowly reached behind the veil. The chamber lights dimmed, not by design but by something unspoken, something spiritual, as if the world itself didn't want to interfere, one thread at a time. The veil unwound, falling like stardust to the floor. She stood, unveiled, bare to judgment, vulnerable before a species that worshipped appearances. The council turned away, afraid, remembering the stories of madness and screams. But Elias did not turn. He looked, and he did not scream, he did not cry, he did not fall. Instead, his breath caught not in fear but in awe. Her skin shimmered like a living galaxy, eyes unlike any shape humans had known, layers of depth and color shifting with emotion. Her beauty was not human, not alien, not definable. It was something that lived in feeling, not symmetry. On Elias, the broken soldier, the quiet rebel, did not break. You're not what I expected, he said. Zalara lowered her gaze. Is that disappointment? He shook his head. That's everything. I didn't know I needed. The council waited for madness, for blood, for failure. But it never came. Instead, two souls from two species stood in stillness, unified, not by tradition, but by choice. The human who saw Hera for the first time in recorded Velari history. There was no scream, no madness, no death, only silence, thick and breathless, and the gaze of a human who had looked into what others feared to witness and remained standing. Elias Cross, once a soldier, once a wanderer, now simply a man who had chosen without condition, held his eyes on Princess Zalara's face. The room held its breath, even the council, even the walls, as if the palace itself did not know how to process what had just happened. She did not hide herself, and he did not retreat. Zalara felt the weight of generations lift from her shoulders, not all at once, but like chains becoming dust. Her face, the curse, the legend, had always been a warning against false desire, not a punishment. Against Vishanand, this man who never begged, who never demanded, had passed without force or fear. Elias spoke, not loudly, not with triumph, but gently. You are everything. His voice trembled not from fear but from the fullness of truth. The eldest counselor stepped forward, eyes narrowed, trying to hold on to law where law had failed. This cannot be. The mirror should have torn him apart. The veil should have shattered his Sanatic. Sulara turned to them. He was never a threat to the veil because he never came to pierce it. He came to hear, to know, to understand. That was what lifted the curse. You mean to say the curse was a lie? The second counselor hissed. A myth to protect royal pure to know. Zalara said it was never a lie. It was a defense against the unworthy. And now you must face what happens when someone is worthy. Elias stepped beside her, not in front of her, not to guard her, but to stand as her equal, not protector, but partner. The room changed, not physically, but emotionally, spiritually, as if the walls now recognized this as truth, not rebellion. The council lowered their heads, not in defeat, but in understanding. Sometimes the old ways are not broken by war, but by love. Ixalara reached out, took Elias's hand again, and this time without a veil, without a mask, without fear. The ancient rites once whispered in high temples now echoed through the room as she recited them. Do you, Elias, cross of earth, accept union, beyond vision, beyond name, beyond expectation? Yes. Do you, Princess Zalara of Valerian, accept him beyond his species, beyond tradition, beyond fear? Yes. Their hands joined. A beam of light surged upward from the floor, not violent, not searing, but soft as if the galaxy itself acknowledged their bond. In orbit above the planet, every bonded crystal across Valerian lit up, spreading the news without words. The princess had chosen the curse, had broken it, and a human had survived. Weeks later, a new alliance was formed. Valari scholars met human philosophers, Valari healers stood beside human engineers. For the first time, a bridge stood between two civilizations that had nothing in common except the understanding that soul sees what eyes cannot. Elias never asked to be made a royal, never wore a crown, never sat on the throne. He walked the gardens with Zalara, shared stories of earth storms, laughed at alien fruit that changed flavor every bite, and sat under Valerio's twin moons, listening to music. They both could feel he never told her she was beautiful, because he didn't need to. She already knew, not from the mirror, Not from the veil, but from the way he stayed from, the way he listened from, the way he looked without needing to seeing the end. It was not power that changed the world, not war, not prophesy. It was a human who dared to love without sight, and a princess who dared to be seen the end.